Ja, herzlich willkommen zu unserem heutigen Webinar. Mein Name ist Michaela Hall und ich darf Ihnen heute unseren Referenten Pritika vorstellen. Wir zeigen Ihnen, wie Sie mit Analytics Plus, Ihr ServiceDesk Plus Tool bereichern können und damit ausführliche Reports erstellen können. Ja, Pritika ist von unserem Partner und Hersteller Soho Corporation und sie arbeitet seit 3 Jahren als Marketing-Analyst und kümmert sich vorrangig nun um Analytics Plus. Ich gebe jetzt gleich das Wort an Pritika weiter und wie Sie sehen, die Präsentation wird auf Englisch sein und Sie erhalten im Anschluss auch noch eine Aufzeichnung. Falls Sie Fragen haben, können Sie diese gerne über das Panel mir stellen und wir werden diese dann im Nachgang beantworten. Okay, Pritika, it's now your turn. I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela, and thanks everyone for attending this webinar. So through the course of the next 30 minutes or so, I'll take you through how Analytics Plus, the advanced analytics solution from ManageEngine, can help you analyze ServiceDesk Plus data, help you get better insights, and ultimately empower you to make better decisions and improve your IT service delivery. So let me first start off by showing you a few interesting numbers. So in 2016, we had conducted a survey for our ManageEngine users. Around 160 of them had participated in the survey, and the purpose of the survey was to identify the need of a self-service tool and the issues that these users face in analyzing the data. So 85% of these users believe that something like an ITSM analytics tool or something similar to that would help them enhance their ServiceDesk operations. 43% of them wanted to generate reports on their own. They believe that it was easier for them to have better control or to have more control of their data rather than depend on someone to generate those reports for them. And also the last factor, which is probably an important one, 48.6% of them said it took them nearly 30 minutes to an hour to create a report. So this basically set the ground for us to understand that people are still looking for tools that help them create reports easily and quickly. So I have listed the source here, which is the infographic. I will be sharing the presentation to Michaela post this session, and she'll be sharing this to all of you. For now, I'll just give you a brief look of the infographic and continue with the presentation. So this is the infographic page, sorry. And just briefly taking you through the page so that once you get the presentation, you can view this at your leisure. Right, now let me go back to the presentation. So I'll tell you a few things about Analytics Plus. As mentioned, it's a self-service advanced analytics solution for your IT. And we launched the solution last year in August. It's an on-premises analytics solution, and it helps you analyze your IT data with powerful visualizations. Also, using Analytics Plus, you can also get important and very useful insights to help you craft your ITSM strategy and make business-critical decisions. Right. So this simple diagram will tell you about the features of Analytics Plus at a glance. So at the top, you can see that we feed in a lot of data through this funnel, and you get a lot of reports coming out of it. So Analytics Plus, as you can see from this diagram, analyzes data from a variety of data sources, such as your spreadsheets, files, feeds, your relational and non-relational databases, so any applications which include Op Manager, App Manager, and App Manager, I mean Applications Manager, ServiceDesk Plus, and Support Center Plus. You can also pull in data from web APIs, and using this tool, you get a unified view of your entire IT infrastructure. You can easily create reports, and you can create them quickly by this drag and drop builder. You can also see that Analytics Plus has another interesting feature called auto analysis. So when you import data from any of these sources, Analytics Plus intelligently reads the data, runs a sort of correlation, and generates dashboards and reports instantly for you. You can also, as I mentioned, you can pull in data from different sources. Now you can also perform something called cross-data analytics, which means that you can merge data from, let's say, sales, marketing, come up with a unified report based on that. And also, you can manipulate your data using this formula engine, wherein you have several pre-built analytical functions and an Excel-like formula engine with a set of mathematical and statistical functions. So these formulae will help you customize your reports better. And now these are the defining aspects of Analytics Plus. You have several predefined reporting templates. So with every integration, you get around 250, you get close to 250 plus reports and dashboards that are available out of the box, meaning they will be packaged within the application and they will be added over time. Right, and you have several types of visualizations that are available. You can have charts, you can have pivot tables, you can have several types of reporting charts like pie charts, your bar charts, and I will show you all of that as I take you through the product. So this is just for your information at the moment. Right, so this is the crux of the presentation, as in how are we going to tackle ServiceDesk Plus problems using analytics. So, right, so I will take you through the product, show you a brief layout, and then we'll get started. So, as you can see, this is the Manage Engine Analytics Plus homepage. And these are the different options that I mentioned. You can import data from files, feeds, local cloud databases, and all the integrations that are available here. So to give you a brief, in your ServiceDesk Plus page, if you can see, there is an admin tab, and you have an option called Advanced Analytics. You will find this page listed here, and this is how you set up the integration with Analytics Plus. You may do this once you install Analytics Plus, and you can see that you already have options for integrating with Analytics Plus and also hosting this information on cloud, which is Zoho Reports. And once you enter your credentials and enter your synchronization date, you save and sync, and that is how you get this database that is available here in your Analytics Plus databases section. So these include those databases that I have integrated for myself, and these include databases that someone will share with you. So for the purpose of this webinar, I will be using reports that I'll be creating using this database. So here in Analytics Plus, currently from ServiceDesk Plus, we import data from the request, the tasks, the work log, the change, and service catalog modules. So of late, we actually pushed in data from the change management module. So we have a set of reports and dashboards available for this new module as well. So to help you get started with what are the value additions or what else can you get out of reporting, what other than simple reporting features that are available in ServiceDesk Plus, you will find that Analytics Plus is a very versatile tool and helps you come to decisions very quickly. You get an overall view of your ServiceDesk Plus data as well. So to show you that, I will be demonstrating how it can help you tackle simple ServiceDesk problems via certain use cases. So, and then through these use cases, I will show you how you can build reports and analyze your data. Right, so I'll take you through the presentation now. So for the first scenario, let's look at what happens when a service desk manager has to balance a technician's workload. So for the purpose of these use cases alone, I will be taking the example of a fictitious company called Zilka Inc. And I'll introduce the characters in just a moment. So here, this is Katrin, who is the service desk manager, and Jason and Scott, who are the IT technicians. Now, the problem here is that Jason and Scott are technicians who work in different shifts, but they seem to have a very different what do I say, work day, or rather, they've been having a different work year, in the sense that Jason seems to be extremely busy with work and seems to be getting a lot of incoming requests and calls. But Scott here seems relatively relaxed. Now, when this problem was escalated to Katrin, she is wondering how she can fix this. Now, the first step here is that she needs to find out just how many incoming requests are coming for Jason and how many are coming for Scott. So for that, let's go back to the product. Now, all I need, I've already, for the purpose of the webinar, I've actually already created a couple of reports. So I'll be building this report that you see. To show you how to build this report, I'll have to access the request table that you can see here. And I will create a report now. So here you go to new chart view. And what I need is to find out the number of incoming requests based on the technician. So as you can see, here are the fields, and this is your report builder. To create my report, all I have to do is drag and drop the necessary fields, and that's it. My report will be done. So for this purpose, let me see. I need the technician, the technician's name on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, I will need the request ID, and I will need the count of it. So here I have it. I can see the graph that has been generated here. But for this purpose alone, I need to find out the number of requests that come in for just Jason and Scott. I'm sorry. So for that, all I do is I run a filter, and I add the technician field in the filter section, and I select Jason and I select Scott. So this is the same graph that you see here, and this is what I've labeled as a request trend. For the purpose of easier analysis, let's say I go back to the graph that I've already created, and I'll just show you how versatile this is. Now I can actually change this to different visualizations as I am creating. So now I have a pie chart, I have a line chart, but for the purpose of easier analysis, I'll stick to the bar chart for this time. And because you may notice that the axis names are a little different. Now that I have edited by just going to the settings section here. And as you can see, there is an option for axis. I go here and I change the names and I give apply. And that's how I was able to change the names for both the X and the Y axis. So right, so now that I have my graph, I generate it, I give it a name. And I've already, for example, here a name is already given. So I've given it name like 1A request trend, and I give OK. And right, I get down to business. I get down to analyzing the graph now. And I can see that Jason has a lot of requests. He has almost 151 requests, and Scott is around 80, almost double of what Scott is actually getting. So there is a reason why Jason is busy. Now, the next step is for Katrin to find out whether Jason is taking too much work or taking up too much work, and because of Scott, or whether Scott is being lazy and not doing his work, or is there another reason? Does it have anything to do with the shift timings that they work? Now, Jason is someone who comes in around 9 o'clock, and Scott is someone who comes in at 6 o'clock. Now, the next step towards this analysis is I need to create a report that tells me the incoming requests on an hourly basis. So for that, I will create another report based on the request table that is here. So I shall go here again and repeat the steps. I shall go here and I click on new chart view. And here I add the created time on the x-axis. And here by default, I can see that it has been selected for month and year. I click on the drop down and I see there are different values for me to change. Now there is year, quarter, there's also seasonal values. So I go ahead and I select hour of day. And on the y-axis, I add the request ID, the count of it. And that's it. I get a graph at this point. Now, what if I want to select based on the time? So for that, I can add something called a user filter. So here I go and I add the created time and I select this edit button and it shows me the components. It shows me to select what box. I can add a date range, I can add actual period, I can add relative or seasonal period. But for this purpose alone, I'll check a relative period. I select that box, I go to next. And here, let's say I want to see the incoming requests for this year alone. So I select this year, I give a finish and I generate my graph and I click view mode. And let's say I give this year. So if you look at this, as I mentioned, Jason is someone who comes in at 9 o'clock. So you can see that he gets a lot of requests, more than the others, especially Scott. Scott, who comes in at 6 o'clock, just about starts getting very few requests. So it's no wonder that he feels relaxed. So at this point, Catherine has to take a call on what to do. So she now knows that she needs to probably add somebody else in Jason's shift and lend him a helping hand, or she needs to move Scott to a busier shift. So this way, she will be able to redistribute and balance the workload between her technicians. So this is just one example of that. Now, in this same report that I've created, what if I wish to share this report? Now, there are multiple options for doing that. One, Catherine can also export this view as a CSV or an Excel file, as a PDF, as a HTML, or as an image. So I can either export this single view, as in this single report, or I can also export multiple views. Now, for example, there are dashboards that I mentioned here. So I can export this entire view with multiple views as a layout, as in a dashboard or on each page, and I can export it as a zip file also. Right. The next one is, for example, I'll just show you what happens when I share. Now, when I give share, I can share this view to new users, groups, etc. Now, for example, I click on this and I type something as, let's say, zilka.com, and I click on next. You find that there are, it's very safe to share this data, and you have fine-grained permissions. You have read access. You can check the amount. You can actually control the amount of data you want to share with the other users. So you can either show them, just give them read access, allow them to export their data, or you can just select everything. In this case, let me see that, let's just say that I'm being generous and I'm selecting everything. And I go ahead and click on next. And here, actually, I can specify the filter criteria that they need to see too. So you can actually show them a section of the report that you want to share with your users. If you feel like some data need not be shared or may not be relevant to the user that you're sharing, you can apply all of these filters and do so. And you can just click on next and send an invitation email. You can customize this email and this text and do that. And just click on share and the person will be able to view that. Now, the one thing that I have to say is when you share your report to any user who has to use it, the person either has to have a user account in Analytics Plus, or with the user account, the person will be able to read or write or manipulate the data, will have access to do all of that. But suppose you want to share a report, let's say you want to publish the report to a user who you wish to just give read-only access to. At that time, you have to choose this option. This is for embedding your report. For example, if you want to share this report on a web page or embed it in a website or a blog, you can use the embed option. And you can do that by just giving them a read-only access. You need to select this option. So in this case, the user that you share it with does not have to log into Analytics Plus. And this is possible with something called the Dashboard Viewer license. Since the time of this webinar is limited, I will not go too much into that. But if you have any questions regarding this, please send me an email and I will get back to you. Just wanted to introduce the different sharing options to the users right now. You can also create a URL or a permalink for this, which means that you can probably copy it and bookmark it in your browser, and you can come back to this later or share it with someone who wants to do the same. So you have different options of sharing this report as well. Right. Now that we have covered everything in the first report itself, let's see what other problems Analytics Plus can help a ServiceDesk Plus user solve. Measuring SLA compliance trends. Okay. So Catherine again is worried. She says that I want to see the trends in the SLA compliance rate and I want to make sure that my team is SLA compliant. How do I do this? Right. So why is this so important? That is the first question we need to be asking ourselves. Now, generally, if you are an organization which has around, let's say, 20 to 30 technicians, getting around 200 requests per day may not be too problematic. As in, your technicians may be able to meet a resolution time. Let's say it's 24 hours. It may not be very difficult for them to meet that time. But suppose the incoming request volume goes up to 300 or 400, then maintaining the same SLA will be problematic. Suddenly it becomes difficult. And that's what Catherine is worried about. She believes that sometimes, suppose there is an incident like a network disruption or there is a security attack, it could generate a lot of new requests, and that time your SLA compliance rate could take a hit. So she, being a good ServiceDesk manager, wants to create a report that helps her compare the incoming request rate with her SLA compliance rate. Now for that, I've already created a report, but I'll show you how we can construct it. This is a report I have created. It's the performance timeline of requests. And I'll go to the edit design to show you the report builder and the parameters that I've used to build the report. Right. So now here, all I need to do was I just need to map this against the created time. And here it's the month and year that I've selected. And here the parameters that I've selected are SLA requests that have been violated, and I've also selected it to be compared against the count of request IDs. And I just go ahead, I generate my graph, I click save, and then I go to view mode. Right. And as you can see, for example, in the month of May 2016, we had around 116 requests. They dipped to 62 in June. Similarly, the SLA violation rate, the number of SLA violated requests are marked in red, and the total request count is marked in green. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that before I went to the graph. And this is a combination chart, as you can see. This is a stacked bar chart, and this is a bar chart. Now, for this purpose, I've chosen a combo chart because it's easy for me to see the changes in the violation and the number of SLA violated requests versus the change in the request count. So as I was saying, in May, you had around 116 requests, but they moved to 62 in June. And you can also see that the SLA violation, number of SLA violated requests have also gone down. Now, let's take a case where the SLA violation requests have gone up. Yes, you can see in August, it was at 5, and the request count was 88. But in September, it went to 100, and the violated requests also went up. Now, similarly, you can also see that happening for October, November, and so on and so forth. Now, how does this help me? Now, or rather help Catherine. Now, Catherine now understands the degree to which her SLA compliance gets affected. She knows particularly that if the request count goes above a certain count or a certain limit, her SLA compliance rate is not going to remain stable. There are going to be requests that are going to be violated. So this helps her create a maybe make a plan on how she can handle the increase in request volume. She may decide to hire more people, add them, or redistribute them, or understand that if understand how to plan for future service disruptions like these. And this makes her more efficient in terms of handling a sudden boost in request volume. Right. So this is the second report that has been done. Now, let me go back to the third one. Optimize the number of emergency changes. As I mentioned earlier, Analytics Plus now pulls in data from the change management module as well. This is one important report that will be useful for helping you maintain the number of emergency changes in your help desk. So before that, let's look at what Catherine is saying. So she says that many emergency changes have been lodged over the past year, or most of them even required to be an emergency change, right? So let's just go back now. Right. So this is the report that I've created. Now I'll tell you how this is important. So I look at the emergency changes in your help desk will certainly help you understand and take control of some of the changes. It tells you to answer a very important question. Are most of them even required to be an emergency change? So what are emergency changes? Well, there are some changes that basically need to be implemented as early as possible, because sometimes, like I mentioned in the previous scenario, if you have like a denial of service attack or a service disruption, you may need to perhaps, let's say, modify the configuration of your router. Now, such a change would need to be lodged as an emergency change, so that it does not have to go through a lot of approval, and that's not a lot of time taken to implement that particular change. But sometimes, in some cases, we find that there are a lot of changes in our help desk that are lodged as an emergency change, and this means that there is something that is being done very inefficiently. So with Analytics Plus, she can determine the number of emergency changes and also make sure that they be kept to an absolute minimum. So for that, she uses the change table that's here and create a report. So this is the trend of emergency changes that have been created. So if you look at this, the x-axis will have the reason for change listed, and the y-axis will have, just like the previous case, you had the request ID. Here I'll be taking the count of change ID, and I'll be applying a filter to check if it's an emergency change or not. Right. And this is the graph that I get. And I see, for example, I'll take into consideration, let's say, the number of antivirus and firewall updates. Now I see that there are 99 changes that have been lodged under this category, and it constitutes 17% of the pie. So I go here, and this is where I demonstrate a very interesting feature. I go here directly to that, and I drill down by urgency. I can drill down by any parameter that I want to see. You can see how easy it is to get to the bottom of your data or get to the bottom of a problem by just having a single graph. I go here and I click on drill down by urgency, and these changes have been categorized based on that. Okay, so for the moment, I will ignore all these three changes, and I'll focus my attention on these 28 changes that have been categorized as can wait. Right. So these can wait changes seem interesting to Catherine. So what she does is she clicks again and she chooses this option instead, the view underlying data option. Right. And she's able to see that changes such as accessing a database or resetting a password or downloading a file from an external website, all of this has been categorized as an emergency change, which can definitely wait. So what does this mean? It probably means that there may have been some firewall update that probably failed to run, which should have happened periodically, but it failed to run, and that probably denied access to certain services. Now, instead of filing this as an emergency change, what Katrin can now do is come up with a plan to periodically check for such antivirus or firewall updates, run them, and take care of these problems. So she can probably reduce these number of changes to be lodged as an emergency change. And this count will automatically come down. So analytics in this way can help you with very prompt and efficient handling of all these changes, and you can see how it can minimize the impact of change-related incidents on your service quality. Right. Now let's move on to the last scenario, measuring areas of customer dissatisfaction. So Catherine is saying that we are doing our best to resolve the requests that we get, but are our customers really satisfied? How do I find out? So obviously, dissatisfied customers mean bad for business, and it's always good to have a report in hand which tells you the different areas of customer dissatisfaction, so that requests based on these areas can be taken on priority and handled first. So again, it's a matter of building an extremely simple and interesting report here. So let's go to areas of customer dissatisfaction. And again, this is the report that I've already built. I go to the edit design builder and I see that I have built this using the request table. It's a very simple report, and here all I've done is I have added two filters instead, and let me just show you how I went about. So here, because I need to find out the different areas, I add the category field that's available here. It's very easy to search for anything. You just type it in the search bar here and it appears. I chose the category field and I click on actual, and here I add the created time. So I see the quarter. So it's basically all these color bars that you see have been segregated based on the quarter, and on the text I add the count of requests that have been filed under each category. Now, how do I know that it's based on only customers who are dissatisfied? For that, I add two interesting metrics here. So I add the number of requests that have been reopened, and I select yes. And I also add the number of requests that have been escalated. So like I said, I just search for it here and I drag and drop. So that has been added, and I select yes for both. Sorry. This is also yes. And I click here to generate my graph. I view it and I save it. Now, for the purpose of analysis alone, let's say there is just too much color and too much information here. Let's say that I just lock out I just need to look at Q1 and Q2, right? So I focus my attention to this part of the graph, and you can see how easy it is to manipulate the data and change your visualization instantly. So I see that there are a couple of problems related to the ISP links and several printer problems that have been lodged. A lot of people have complained about these two. So in this way, Catherine can take up requests based on these categories, probably forwarded to the necessary technicians or the departments, and ask them to work on priority, and they can be resolved really fast. So these are just a few interesting reports that you can create, that I've created. Similarly, if I have to talk about the different dashboards that you get to see when you integrate with ServiceDesk Plus, you can look at the CIO dashboard. You can see the same report here. You can see backlog analysis. You can look at the help desk overview dashboard. There are several such interesting dashboards that you can see. Even on the dashboard, you can immediately change the chart type. You can also open it in a new tab and change your data here, and the same changes that you do here will be reflected in the dashboard. You can view the underlying data immediately here. So it's pretty easy and a very comprehensive assessment and analysis of your ServiceDesk data. And as mentioned before, it also pulls in data from your databases, your files, feeds, etc. Now, for this purpose alone, let me just show you what happens when you pull data from a normal file. So let's say that I click on this files and feeds, and I just say sales test, and I can choose the type that's here. For instance, you can have HTML content. You can actually pull in data from URL. If I give HTML content, and if I give JSON, I can give XML files. For this purpose, I choose CSV. I go to choose file, and I select the sales.csv, and I click on next. And I see that it shows me all the fields and it recognizes it based on the data type. And I just go ahead and I can select what I can do with the import errors too. For now, I just set an empty value. I create this. I'm sorry, there seems to be some issue here. Just a second. So for this purpose, if normally what happens is when I import the data, I get a prompter saying, do you like to auto-analyze your data? And these are the dashboards that Analytics Plus actually created for me on auto-analysis. So this, I just wanted to show you this, but for some reason, my apologies, the import doesn't seem to be working at the moment. So these are the dashboards that Analytics Plus created for me automatically. So yeah, so this is another interesting feature of Analytics Plus, as I had mentioned. Right, now let me just go back to the presentation. So keeping in line with the theme of the webinar, this is also something that I wanted to share with you. We released a new ebook recently about 10 must-have reports for any helpdesk manager. You can scan the QR code here to download the book right now. And I'll also be, like I said, I'll also be sharing this presentation later, and you can use it as well. For now, I'll just show you a preview of the ebook that we have. So these are some of the very important reports that you can see with your ServiceDesk Plus data. And all of this has been generated using Analytics Plus, incoming ticket trends, and you already saw areas of customer dissatisfaction, your timeline, your helpdesk timeline, burn rate, etc. So please go ahead and download the book, and please let us know whether you found it useful. Right, so that brings me to the end of my webinar. Thank you all for attending this and for being so patient. If there are any doubts or any questions at the moment, you can ask me in the GoToWebinar chat window, or you can send me an email at the email address that's flashing on your screen at the moment. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. And over to you, Michaela.